Pedestrian death rates are on the rise, both locally and nationally, and Redfin wants to show everyone what the buyer agent's making. Tune into Toole Time right now. I'm Tom Toole. She's Jess Lion. We are back on another episode of Toole Time, and there is some local news I really want to touch on. I actually saw a little bit of it in person. So over Labor Day weekend, there was a pedestrian in Ocean City, New Jersey, so Philadelphia area east on holiday weekends during the summer. It was 10:21 a.m. on Saturday morning, and a pedestrian got hit by a vehicle at the intersection of 34th and West, so very busy intersection. It's right off the bridge, and the pedestrian got charged with a ticket. And when we go a little further, it's not so much about this story, but it really hits home. Pedestrian death rates are up exponentially. According to NPR, pedestrian death rates are up 35% since 2008. So, Jess, what do you think about all this?
So in that article in Ocean City, I was reading through it, and he got ticketed because the person who was driving the vehicle had the green light, and he crossed the street when the pedestrian sign said "do not walk." So he was clearly disobeying the sign. So should he have been? Thank God he's okay, right? But should he have been ticketed? Yes, absolutely. And I see this all the time living in Philadelphia, especially out where I am, like Northern Liberties, Fishtown, areas like that. There are a lot of bars. There are a lot of young kids. They'll go out and they'll drink at bars and stuff, and they will just cross wherever they want, whenever they want. You have to be so alert when you're driving because people pop out of nowhere. But I think it's a real problem, and I think 100% if you're not obeying, like bikes have to obey the laws, cars have to obey the traffic laws. It's for your safety. You need to obey these traffic laws.
So I agree with you. You got to obey the law. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The big debate, like big surprise there, right? More importantly, people don't pay attention anymore when they're walking down the street. They've got their heads buried into their phone. Headphones in, AirPods, whatever. It's not just this. This really hit home for me because I was actually like driving to the 34th Street Bridge when they had 5 blocks taped off. You couldn't get past there, and we were doing something over the holiday weekend with our kids. So I saw the scene, and I was like, wow, this never happens down here. So it was pretty alarming. And then when I did a little more research, back in April, there was a pedestrian that got struck and killed in Paoli. It was the 3rd time that week in mid-April that a pedestrian died from getting hit by a car. So this is not
Where
like
was that? Like, was there like
so it was at
high
the
traffic area?
It was yes, it was. It was at the crosswalk of South Valley and Lancaster Ave, so right by the Paoli train station. So the trend here is that people aren't paying enough attention. Now, this doesn't say who got ticketed, who was at fault. That's not my point. When you look at the NPR stat over the past 11 years, death rates are up 35%. This is the same issue. We talked about screen time and looking at your phone too much and all that. It's not just the pedestrians. It's also the drivers. Now, they've got these motorized scooters everywhere. Not here, because I don't think our city could handle it very clearly. I don't think there's enough place to dump these things because when you see them, they're dumped like all over the sidewalks. They're all over the place.
But there are no rules with these yet. Yeah.
Well, they're a little more regulated in Hoboken, where there's actually like a parking spot for them. But I mean, you go out to San Diego, there's literally like piles of scooters everywhere. I mean, it's out in LA, they have the same issue, and it's not only people not paying attention, but the bikers, the pedestrians, the scooter riders, they're not obeying the traffic laws. And at the same time, drivers need to be on high alert. So this is going to be a problem as people want to drive less, and I don't like driving. I mean, I'm all for the not having to drive places sort of movement that's been going on. Well, it's good for the environment. Well, you could walk somewhere. I mean, whatever. That's not my point. Is this is the way society's going right now. These companies are coming in trying to help people get around easier. There's not enough laws. When I was recently, I was in Santa Monica for a buddy's wedding, and they had a green lane just for scooters. So that's a little more regulated. Well, it was Lime. Uber had one. Okay. I mean, there's a number of them there. What I saw there was some actually thought and regulation put behind it, and they were obeying traffic laws. Around here, I don't see bikes obeying traffic laws at all. You live in the city. I mean,
absolutely no.
They just fly through red lights. There's pedestrian crosswalks. They breeze right through them. People got kids. So the issue I see is that there's not enough regulation and clarity on this. What happened in Ocean City, I mean, that's unfortunate. When it says don't walk and you walk,
Your fault, friend.
I don't know what to say there. I mean, they're doing it.
I'm glad they're okay.
Someone has to make a decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If this stuff doesn't get regulated a little more, it's going to be a continuing problem. Or they need to have bike lanes. You only ride your bike on certain streets.
I see this all the time. I'm driving in Philadelphia, and this bike wants to either drive right next to you or in front of you using the whole lane, and then when it comes to a stop sign or a red light, they just continue to go. And it's like, okay, well, if you're using this lane, you're in traffic with other vehicles, you need to abide by some laws.
It's going to be a problem. I mean, there's going to be more of this stuff happening, and seeing death rates rise by 35%. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. So this is again something that falls on local government, where they need to, instead of saying, "Hey, Lime Scooter, come on into our city," or whatever it is, it needs to be
safety. Like regulation.
Call the city works department, determine what are the best places to ride these things, and make them dedicated lanes. And if not, take them off the streets, because there's people that are getting hurt, that are getting killed. This is not a small issue anymore. So, and if you're walking around, get the hell off your cell phone, please.
Look up, maybe like once every 11 seconds.
So unfortunate. I mean, this one hit pretty close to me, but just seeing that. So we're going to see more of this. I was just so surprised.
Yeah, me too.
So I think we're in agreement there. So let's talk about the next topic, a little more real estate related, a little more maybe controversial. So Redfin came out last week, and they plan to publicly display broker commissions on all Seattle listings on their website, not just their own listings, all listings, once the new MLS service rules take effect on October 1, according to Inman. So this was announced back in July. The Northwest MLS rule change will allow 30,000 agents and brokers in the Seattle area to publish the amount of commission sellers offer a buyer's broker on their websites, freeing up Redfin and others to follow suit. What do you think about all this?
Well, when I read this article, I was like, okay, like, that's great. Full transparency for the consumer. That's the way it should be. I don't really think it's going to stir anything up. Reading through the article, it's kind of insinuating that the buyers don't know where the commission is coming from for their buyer's agent. I know as a listing agent, you sit down and you discuss that when you're talking to a seller, and as a buyer's agent, you sit down and say, okay, the seller's agent usually compensates the buyer's agent this amount, and that's done well ahead of time before I even go out and look at houses with them a lot of the time. So it's not really a surprise to my buyers or me. I don't think this is going to have really any impact on the market. Reading the article, though, I guess Glenn Kelman, he said that...
That's their CEO.
Yeah, Redfin CEO. He said throwing up the commission will maybe increase commission rebates for buyers, and then they discussed maybe more competition, lower fees for consumers. The rebate thing, I really don't see you asking for rebates from your doctor or a lawyer, so I don't understand. Someone is doing a service for you, so asking for a rebate there kind of doesn't make any sense to me. And more competition, I really don't see. As me, I'm talking a lot here, but as for me, I'm not going to show my clients one house over another just because there's like a difference or more commission for one or the other. So I don't see this as having a huge impact.
So we have to be careful what we say here about commissions, because it can be a borderline illegal conversation. So to be clear, we're not talking about rates or anything like that. This is just the idea of putting it out there. And like you, I am all for transparency, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, all our buyer clients know we get paid when we sell them a home. This is a very clear arrangement. We make that very clear up front when we meet them the first time is, yes, I earn money when you buy a home. On top of that, this is in line with his T3 Summit TED Talk that he did, which said buyer agents are in trouble. Then they came out with their 72-question survey or whatever it is to have the instant offer. Not instant offer, it's not the right word, but agentless offer might be I don't know the name of the program. I can't recall.
Click it and do it basically online.
Well, that you fill out a survey and you answer questions, and then they give it based on what the market does, not necessarily what's best for you. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation over the weekend with a parent friend of mine's, and this guy's a professor, and he's pretty interested in the real estate industry, was asking me about Redfin, and he goes, I just don't see a lot of value in that because we're spending a lot of money, and I'm concerned about getting a house that's not going to put me in a bad position later, so I don't want to avoid the agent or go with an agent for that reason. rather than get someone that's going to help me make a really good investment for my family. So there's always going to be those people out there that want that. That being said, there's also these commission rebates that happen. I mean, there's companies like Assist to Sell or that's long gone, or Purple Bricks that is failing. I mean, these companies are out there. This is in line with what Glenn Kelman has been trying to do with Redfin, which is protect the customer against excessive costs. Not a lot of customers feel the same way. And in Pennsylvania, when the settlement sheet comes, it says how much money you make. Mm-hmm. California is not like that. California has different disclosure laws. So every state is different in terms of who sees what. So I don't believe the buyer can see the seller side in California. What I know here is that looking at this is just another example of Redfin making news, pushing the envelope. I don't see this changing anything because people already know agents get paid a certain amount of money, and we never show the home because of the commission. We show to protect our client and serve them properly because they may want to buy a certain house.
Absolutely.
And the commission for that house might be zero sometimes. It might be a for sale by owner. We sell for sale by owners all the time. So this is not anything new. It's just Redfin getting in the news saying, hey, we're going to do this. And the more transparency, the better, in my view, because that's the kind of culture that we're moving towards. So everyone knows exactly what they're getting. That's what the TRID regulations are for. So the buyers have 3 days to review their settlement sheet. It doesn't get thrown in front of them the day of closing. So the federal government has gone this way. I don't see it being a big deal that Redfin is doing anything different here. So
not big news.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a lot more clickbait, not a whole lot of substance.
Yeah,
because the fundamental issue with Redfin is their agents still aren't that well versed in the process, and despite rebates or getting more competitive in pricing, you need to get good results and give good advice and understand what's going on.
Absolutely, 100%.
Motivational time, and this is this comes from Simon Sinek. So if you have not watched his TED Talk on YouTube, just go watch it right after this is over. It's one of the most impactful TED Talks I've ever seen.
Have we watched it? I haven't watched it.
I've watched it many times. So you should, as soon as this is over, go back to your computer and go Google Simon Sinek.
I like this quote a lot.
So the quote, why don't you give it to him, Jess?
There are only 2 ways to influence human behavior. 1, you can manipulate it, or inspire it.
So what do you think about all this? Since I picked the quote.
Yes, you did pick this one. I really like to go towards inspiring human behavior as opposed to manipulating it. Manipulating, I guess, sounds like it's coming from a pretty negative place. You have your own intention above everybody else's if you manipulate it. But if you inspire, I really think you will have more of an impact and drive someone else to do something that maybe you would want them to do, or you think's good for them, or get the result that you're looking for. I like to put things on my Instagram story that inspires me, whether it be from a podcast or whether it be a song or whether it be from a talk or an interview, in hopes to inspire everyone else so they can get something out of it as I did, because that motivates me to act. So I think inspiration is definitely the way here.
So if you look at the definitions of each of these words, and I find this really interesting to go back exactly what they mean, because sometimes there's a negative connotation, a positive one associated with different words. So you're right on there. Manipulate has 2 definitions when you go to Google. Handle or control, typically in a skillful manner. That's not really what they're talking about here. That'd be more like they manipulated the car to drive down the road or something like that. Or control or influence a person or situation cleverly, unfairly, or unscrupulously. So that's definitely what you're talking about. Well, manipulation can be,
mess with your head.
Well, there's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, all that stuff, and pain will motivate people more than pleasure. So that can kind of be one way to go about it. The other, when it comes to inspiration or inspire, fill someone with the urge or ability to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. The other is to breathe in air or inhale, which I did not know. So to me, this is so clear that it's about making an emotional connection with somebody. Figure out if you're trying to influence human behavior, so you want to get someone to do something. The fundamental question to ask is, what's that going to do for your life if you buy in? What's that going to do for your life if you actually do it? Versus manipulating is, well, you have to do this or we're not going to do this. I mean, it's almost kind of like what you do with your kids and being a parent. Maybe you do have to manipulate the kids a little more versus an adult where inspiring people is not easy. And if you can get them to see the emotional connection, how it's really going to benefit them at the end of the day, what's your life going to look like if you do this?
Yeah.
And do it consistently. That's where you move the needle. That's where you can really get people to change their behavior, change what they're doing on a daily basis. And to me, that's the only way to go here. And Sinek is so spot on here because it's really like, all right, what's the messed up way to do it? Or what's the proper, exciting, leveling up, rise above it sort of way to do it? And that's where the inspiration comes from.
I agree. I think when you inspire someone as opposed to manipulate them, you're really giving them the courage and the belief in themselves that they can do whatever you're inspiring them to do. So I'm going to check this guy out. I really want to see
Everyone should. I mean, this is one of those people that, super inspiring. His TED Talk is. I've watched a number of TED Talks. One of the best ones that I've ever seen. And critically acclaimed by people that are in the human behavior analysis business,
Cool.
that are trying to better themselves, entrepreneurs, whatever, high achievers, all in that space where they're trying to influence their behavior to become better. In line with this quote. We'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
See ya.